Luke 12:2. For there is nothing covered that shall not be revealed, neither hid that shall not be known. Call halal Yahweh Bahasham Yahushai Bahasham Rakaha Quadash. Double honors unto the apostles, double honors unto the elder bishops. Salutations to all my fellow laborers doing this work in truth and sincerity, risking their lives and their freedom to do so now more so than ever. 144,000 and the scattered elect that are scattered around the four corners of the earth that be like unto the speckled bird, the Israelite foreigners among the heathen that look like those heathen. This is not a black thing. And to the few Akwaf that are listening and learning, Shalom, this is your brother Malcolm. I'm coming at you with another lesson in truth, all right? The Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans primarily make up the Israelites on earth today, all right? Point blank, period. And those of our people who are scattered among the heathen, which is a whole lot of them, all right? And what this lesson is going to be about is the Esau's lies being brought forth. He's being scrutinized by the entire world. His media is not trustworthy. People don't believe in him. They know they're lying. You know, this whole thing with the college campuses is yet another distraction. Matter of fact, I've even heard now that Antifa and BLM has been brought in. George Soros is behind all this. And by the way, FYI, Black Lives Matter is a white organization with a black name. You can drive through every neighborhood in every hood and throughout America, and you will not see a BLM in the windows of any so-called black people in the hood. You only see that name in the windows in white neighborhoods and in white businesses in their neighborhoods. That is a white organization disguised with that name. So when things go wrong, well, it was Black Lives Matter. You get it? Okay? So without any further ado, the expose on Esau Edom's lies by his own in the spirit of Psalm 64:8.
Of looming famine in northern Gaza, where it says 70% of the population is facing catastrophic hunger.
The ethical integrity of certain Western journalists and their adherence to the foundational principles of journalism have come under scrutiny, prompting global skepticism regarding the authenticity of news dissemination. While Western journalism initially embarked on a commendable path, it has been criticized for exhibiting biases that serve the agendas of hegemonic powers, justifying their actions against others. The Western media landscape has evolved into a tool for manipulation, with information standards often manipulated to align public opinion with governmental narratives. This concerning trend has led countries worldwide, once reliant on Western media for unbiased reporting, to establish their own media outlets to amplify their voices. Thus, entities like Russian television, RT, Chinese CGTN, and others emerged, created by influential nations to counter the prevalent false narratives in Western journalism. However, a notable departure from this norm occurred during an interview conducted by the Norwegian Broadcasting Corporation's Yama Wolasmal, where Israeli spokesman David Menser faced rigorous questioning on critical issues. This instance stands in stark contrast to the tendency among Western journalists to distance Israel from its actions in Gaza through selective reporting and biased headlines.
That's exactly what's going on here in America with these new protests and the cries of anti-Semitism. Is to distract from the violent, genocidal things, and then the demonization of anyone who speaks about, anyone who says what I just said or brings it up or points it out. And it's not hearsay or slander. It's actually what's happened. They fabricated information in order to sway the public's opinion, and now they're being called on it. And this is 2 Thessalonians 2:8, and it reads, "And then shall the wicked be revealed, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming." All right. And the number one thing that's exposing these red Edomites, this Amalekite here, all right, this Amalek, Esau Edom, who's claiming to be Jewish, all right, are the men of the Lord, the true prophets. The prophets are back, and they're in their lots, and they're prophesying, standing boldly before those who have accused them and oppressed them.
Throughout the ongoing military operations of the IDF, Western media outlets have played a role in obscuring the full extent of the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. Unlike in conflicts involving rival Western nations, where journalists maintain a critical stance, there has been a reluctance to scrutinize Israel's actions, even in cases where they may constitute potential war crimes. The Norwegian journalist's probing questions during the interview shed light on the discomfort of portraying Israel as the most moral country while overlooking its alleged war crimes and disregard for the rights of innocent Palestinians.
You said you're...
You son of a fucking Hades all. Piece of
The
shit.
government set 3 goals: destroy Hamas, return the hostages, and give the Israelis their sense of security back. But you've failed to deliver on all these promises. Why is that, do you think?
So I would challenge that wholeheartedly. Militarily, the particulars are quite interesting. We think there are 24 battalions of Hamas. We think we've destroyed at least 18 or 19 of those military battalions. There are still 4 in Rafah.
You claim that you've destroyed 18 Hamas battalions. What is the proof of that?
So the proof is from the battlefield itself. We know the number of Hamas and Islamic Jihad terrorists that we've killed. We know we've killed at least 13,000 terrorists, armed terrorists. I remind you again...
How do you know that you've killed 13,000 terrorists?
Because they were firing at us.
So did you do a head count?
Yes.
So this is a verifiable fact, according to you.
I don't say that we have their lists. I don't say we have their names, but we have killed 13,000 combatants.
Yes, but it's just a number, Mr. Mensur. It's just a number. We have never seen any concrete proof that backs up this number.
So I'm a spokesman for this government. I'm a spokesman for this government and the Israeli people. And I'll tell you right now that we have killed 13,000 terrorists. We have executed the gold standard when it comes to fire.
Okay, it kind of made you think about this when he answered.
That you want.
Yeah.
Have you
That was basically his answer, man. All right, let's go to the next video. And let's get a scripture first. This is Luke 8:17. And it reads, "For nothing is secret that shall not be made manifest, neither anything hid that should not be known and come abroad."
All right, Brianna, what's on your radar?
Well, Robbie, if outright lies are a sign of a movement in desperation, then the pro-Zionist movement might be cooked. As you know, for months, the media has been working in overdrive to downplay atrocities committed by Israel against Palestinians, while credulously endorsing unsubstantiated and since disproven stories about, say, 40 beheaded babies, mass rapes on October 7th, and Hamas headquarters under now destroyed hospitals.
So those are 3 critical points, which were all blatant lies. Outright blatant Israeli lies to sway the opinion, had Americans and people out there chanting and fighting over each other at work and causing all kind of chaos here in America. You know, you need to support them. You support someone who kills baby. It was all a fucking lie.
A leaked New York Times internal memo revealed that journalists are discouraged from using the words genocide, ethnic cleansing, occupied territory, refugee camps, or even the word Palestine at the New York Times. And a quantitative analysis by The Intercept conducted back in January showed that Palestinians were mentioned less in the news the more the death toll mounted. And words like slaughter and massacre were used 60 times more when referring to Israelis versus Palestinians, even as the Palestinian death toll reached tens of thousands.
Wow.
New reporting from E. Alex Young in the New York Magazine details how the ADL's Jonathan Greenblatt openly lobbied MSNBC for more pro-Israel coverage.
Now we'll come back to this, but in the next room, the news is on, and you can hear, the controlled false narrative coming out of I think that was Fox that was playing in there, or one of the CNN or Fox, one of the two, just completely lying, man. All right, about these protests, which are being set up by George Soros. All right, and remember, George Soros is the money, the backing behind many of these orchestrated protests, and behind two organizations, Antifa and BLM. And BLM, once again, is a white organization with a so-called black name. So when they do their damage and things go wrong, well, BLM did it. You get it?
Last week, left-wing student activists took over a campus at Columbia University with copycat protests springing up everywhere nationwide. So-called Gaza camps and tent cities have been set up at campuses like Harvard and Yale and Berkeley, to name a few. But is any of this really organic and decentralized? Or is there a lot more here going on behind the scenes? I mean, just look at the response that some of these students give when they're asked about what they're protesting about. They don't have a damn clue.
What would you say is the main goal with tonight's protest?
I think the goal is just showing our support for Palestine and demanding that NYU stops. I honestly don't know all of what NYU's doing.
Is there something that NYU's doing?
I really don't know. I'm pretty sure they're... Do you know what NYU's doing? About Israel. Why are we protesting here?
So why are we protesting? You're out there protesting.
The masked woman there says, "I'm not educated." And the girl responds with, "I'm not either." So what the hell are you doing there then? With identical tents being set up at every one of these sites for these clueless kids and food being shipped in, it is abundantly clear that someone is orchestrating and funding all of this.
Clearly, just like when these things happen, they already have T-shirts and ready-made signs. Almost every event. This is 2 Ezra 9 and 1, and it reads, "And he answered me then and said, Measure thou the time diligently in itself, and when thou seest part of the signs pass, which I have told thee before, then thou shalt understand that it is the very same time wherein the highest will begin to visit the world which he made. Therefore, when thou shalt be seeing earthquakes and uproars of the people, then shalt thou well understand that the Most High spake of those things from the days that were before thee, even from the beginning. For like as all that is made in the world hath a beginning and an end, and the end is manifest." All right, the end is happening. All right, and all these uproars and all this stuff is leading up to it. All right, you think this is something? You wait until they crash the dollar and bring in a digital currency fully, which is happening. That's another thing that this is distracting from. All right.
And at the tip of the spear, you'll find it's none other than billionaire George Soros and his son Alexander. And of course, they're being very stealthy about it. George Soros has been giving billions of dollars to his Open Society foundations, which his son now controls. The Open Society will then give massive amounts of money to the Tides Foundation. The Tides Foundation will then send that cash out to smaller groups who are encouraging these protests. As the money trickles down, you'll eventually find Soros-funded branches of the Students for Justice in Palestine and the Soros-funded group called the U.S. Campaign for Palestinian Rights. So who are they? USCPR is a political home for all who believe that freedom for the Palestinian people is an integral part of achieving our collective liberation. We provide resources and strategic support to the U.S.-based Palestine Solidarity Movement, channeling grassroots power into positive change in U.S. policy and public opinion. We work with local organizers and activists, policymakers, movement leaders, media, and advocacy organizations to advance a rights-based, accountability, and justice-orientated framework from the U.S. to Palestine. And it turns out that at least 3 of these college protests, paid protesters, who are referred to as fellows.
Every crisis that has happened in America in the last 20 years, there has been on Craigslist a need for crisis actors. Every one of them, from the Sandy thing to the Vegas thing, the Boston Marathon thing. Crisis actors. The receipts have been produced, but you get called that C word, that bad word. That conspirit thing. All right. Or you get called anti-Sem.
Are the ones who are leading the charge. These people in particular are paid protesters who are making money to agitate and fuel the explosion of radical anti-Israel protests.
So those are all the college campuses around the country, with some of them, these things are happening. And these are major in Ivy League, college campuses.
At colleges all across the country. The group has received at least $300,000 from Soros's Open Society Foundations since 2017. And they also took in $355,000 from the Rockefeller Brothers Fund since 2019. The Rockefeller Brothers Fund claims to be advancing social change for a more just, sustainable, and peaceful world. So absolutely nothing about this protest movement is organic. It's all about seeding division in a divide and conquer tactic.
That's exactly what they happen. What they're doing. Divide and conquer and distraction. All right. And unfortunately, many of our people aren't listening. All right. And they're going to, 2 Ezra 9:9. Then shall they be in pitiful case, which have abused my ways, Salakia, which now have abused my ways, and they have cast them away despitefully, shall dwell in torment. So when we tell you, hey, you got to keep the law, statutes, and commandments to your best ability. All right, when we tell you that hey, look, you can be with as many women as you can afford, but not one that's married. All right, although that's not wise to do because of disease and. And then our women, many women, they don't grasp that truth of the Bible that a man could actually have multiple women. So that's just one example just popped in the top of my head that I use. Or that you can't eat certain foods. We don't eat abominable foods. Keeping the Shabbat, to the best of your ability. These are just a few of the things a man has to actually grow. If you can grow a beard on your face, you should. Now, sometimes some brothers have jobs where they can't, they'd actually get fired if they, it's a requirement for them to wear in captivity. That happens. But if you're in a position where you can, you should. All right. If you just, because you think you look cute, bald face, and you're trying to impress, Keisha, or you trying to impress Becky or whoever. Maylene, whoever you're trying to impress, that'll get you destroyed. And that's what I mean by when I read by casting them away despitefully, and you shall dwell in torments. For such as in their life have received benefits and have not known me, and they have loathed my law, while they had yet liberty, and when yet a place of repentance was open unto them, understood not but despised it. All right? The same must know it after death by pain. Death by pain is coming to many of our people. All right. 2/3 are already labeled for destruction here in Babylon. There is nothing you can do to stop it or change it. So that means for every 3 Israelites, all right, 2 is not going to make it here in Babylon. Point blank period. And that's a huge number. Okay. So let's go back to this pro-literal false flag video again.
Saying right on Morning Joe, out in the open, who was writing the scripts? Hamas? And he was successful. As one employee told Young, everyone put the screws to NBC and MSNBC to change the tenor of our coverage. Another employee told him that around October 7th, context was not welcome. context was a bad word. Empathy for Palestinians felt forbidden inside MSNBC. Yet despite these feats of media engineering, the public still overwhelmingly supports a permanent ceasefire in Gaza and conditioning military aid to Israel, even if Biden doesn't. This media battle may in part have motivated the TikTok ban, which successfully passed the Senate yesterday. All that's left now is for Biden to sign it into law. Authoritarianism isn't something to fear if Trump is reelected. It's already here. Biden and Trump, establishment Democrats and Republicans alike, have backed the ban, and they're not being discreet about why they're so fond of it. Take a listen to NYU professor Scott Galloway blaming pro-Palestine protests on TikTok.
What might sound paranoid doesn't mean I'm wrong. I think we are being manipulated, specifically youth, to their frame for the world is TikTok. And if you look at TikTok, there are 52 videos that are pro-Hamas or pro-Palestinian for every one served on Israel. I think that we are being manipulated. I think Americans are easier to fool than convinced they've been fooled. But if I were the CCP, I'd be doing exactly the same thing.
He's not the only one. Fox News hosted a TikTok star with 1 million followers who, ostensibly against his own interest, also supports a ban because Hamas.
You really have seen since October 7th especially, the algorithm seems to have taken a bit of an ominous turn.
And what it came down to is that many Americans have money vested in IG and Instagram, Facebook, and some of the other platforms. And the TikTok shopping is what this is really about. Because I see the same stuff, anti-Israeli, not anti-Israeli as racially, but anti-Israeli, their actions. That I see that's all over Instagram, it's all over Twitter, it's all over Facebook as well. People are speaking out against it, and they may come and delete stuff a lot faster because they have control, more control of it. But yet it's all over it. You can't get around it. So that's not the issue. That really came down to money. And let's let her speak a little bit more. We'll bring this to an end.
I mean, you're really seeing Gen Z become Gen T, Gen terrorism. And I see that not just as a joke, but as a reality.
So they're demonizing the very citizens. Looks like a commercial was about to play. They're demonizing the very citizens of America simply for having an opinion, for being able to.
Of course, that is not reality. Gen Z doesn't.
Simply because you can actually process information and see that, well, this is right and this is wrong. And then you support that which is right and you get labeled a T word by your government.
Support terrorism or Osama bin Laden, as he later claims in that clip. But social media did allow Osama bin Laden's 2001 Why I Did It letter to finally be read widely, decades after it had been suppressed by Western media. And folks too young to remember 9/11 learned what many of us who were old enough to know better had forgotten or buried. That bin Laden cited U.S. support for, quote, the oppressive Israelis and their occupation of our Palestine as a motive for the 9/11 attacks.
So
the kids aren't.
I don't know how true that is, but one thing's for sure: there's been a lot of oppression, a lot of bloodshed in Western Asia, all right, which they fraudulently call the Middle East, and the biggest thing is that this is happening. The truth is coming out, and they don't like it. 2 Ezra 6:27, and it reads, "For evil shall be put out, and deceit shall be quenched, and as for faith, it shall flourish. Corruption shall be overcome, and the truth, which have been so long without fruit, shall be declared." And the truth is being declared, and they cannot control the narrative anymore. And when you ask them anything about prophecy, anything, well, it's back to kiddo here. They start stuttering.
Have you ever had a dream that you want him to do you so much you could do anything?
Hey, so with that, all praises, all honor and glory going to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakaha, Kodash, Kwam, Yasharala, Abba, Babal.